Hey bees, I'm Marie from Humblebee and Me, and today we are continuing a series of video tutorials and demonstrations that pair well with my book, Make It Up. So today we're going to take a look at the best way to use a coffee grinder to make powdered cosmetics. So if you're making any kind of powdered cosmetics, you're going to become very good friends with your DIY coffee grinder, and I gotta say, you need a dedicated coffee grinder for this. You'll never ever get that thing clean enough to want to actually grind coffee or spices in it again, so just buy a new one, and that'll become your blush and your foundation coffee grinder, and that's totally fine. They're like $15 to $20, so it's not a huge investment, and believe me, you do not want to accidentally make a bright pink cup of coffee. To make powdered cosmetics, you'll need a couple different pieces of equipment. You'll need, of course, your coffee grinder. You'll need your dust mask for safety. You will need a sheet of cling film or plastic wrap, saran wrap, whatever you call it wherever you live, and a small spoon. So like a teaspoon with a pointed tip is my favorite, and that really helps you scrape around in the grinding dish of your coffee grinder, see what's going on, turn things over. Big spoons really aren't very useful here, so grab a small, cute one. Once you have all of your equipment, making powdered cosmetics is crazy easy. We'll basically just measure all of the powders into the bottom of the coffee grinder, put a sheet of cling film over top the grinder, and then your lid goes in, and then we'll blend that. We'll blend it for about 20 seconds, and then leave for about 3 to 5 minutes to let the powder settle. We'll come back, put our dust mask on, and then you're gonna wanna take your spoon and just give your coffee grinder, give the lid of it and the side of it a couple whacks to help knock any of the powder down, and then you can gently pull the lid off. You will still get a little bit of powder float, but that's why we're wearing our dust mask. You'll go in there with your spoon, give it a little stir, see if there's an untouched layer of powder underneath. There often is. You'll have like a bright pink layer on top, and then you'll have a white, completely untouched layer underneath. So you just want to give that a stir and a turn over, and then give that another blend, wait, whack, stir. That's often enough, but it depends on your grinder, and it often depends on the pigment blend, or even how much volume of powder you have in your grinder. So we're just really going to repeat that until you have a completely even blend. The last thing we'll be adding is our liquid, so any sort of oils or vitamin E. And yeah, that's about it. So come on, let's get started. So once you have your dust mask, this is your basic setup from grinding up powdered cosmetics. So we have a small spoon, your coffee grinder, of course, the lid for the coffee grinder, and a sheet of cling film or saran wrap or plastic wrap, whatever you call it. So in here I have all the ingredients for the Elle Woods blush from the book. And so you can see there's some pigments and the white powdered base ingredients, and you can see a few drops of liquid oil. So one of the first things you're going to want to do is give this a little shake. And so that coats the drops of liquid oil in some of the powder, and it helps them not stick to the lid. And so you can see that there's really not that much powder in here. It really only comes sort of halfway up the grinding dish. And so if we were to grind this now, what would happen is a lot of this would leap up and get stuck in here, and you lose a lot more powder, and it's much less efficient. So what we're gonna do is we're going to use this simple little cheat to reduce the size of our grinder. I adore this trick. So now you can press that piece of cling film down, and it will create a new, much lower lid, greatly reducing the volume of our coffee grinder and letting us get a much more even blend much faster, and also not have to clean the lid of the coffee grinder, which is fantastic. So let's grind away. Okay, so that was about 30 seconds of blending. If I was to pull the lid off this right away, it would there'd be a big poof of blush. So we're gonna leave this for about 5 minutes to let it settle before popping the lid off and giving a stir and seeing how our blend's doing. So it's been 5 minutes and we're ready to pop the lid off, but this is where you need to put your dust mask on. So I'm just gonna do the little bit of talking first before I put the dust mask on, because you won't be able to understand me when I have this on. So what I'm going to do is pop the lid off, turn it upside down, set it on the counter, and use this spoon to scrape around and see how even the color blend is. So I'll sort of scrape the sides and flip everything over, and then we'll pop the lid back on and give it another thorough blending. Okay, so we're going to wait another 5 minutes before checking on that. So it's been another 5 minutes, so I'm going to pop my dust mask back on and we'll take the lid off here and see how it looks. It should be done. Okay, so I'm popping my dust mask off because you can see there's really not a lot coming off here anymore. There's always a bit of a poof when you pull the lid off, but it has settled down really nicely and we've got a good thorough blend here. So that's seriously it. We can set the lid aside, and so I have a little sifter jar here. This is a 30-gram jar from TKB. So there's the lid, and then you can get two different kinds of sifters for them. So there's this one here has a little turning mechanism so that you can sort of turn it on and off. This is great for if you're traveling with these sifter jars, because when you travel with them and they don't have the twisty turny bit, you end up with a big layer of powder sitting on the top of the on the top of the non-closable sifter. So I'm going to use one of these, not only because that other one just flew out of my hand and is now laying on the floor. All right. So for this part, you generally want to unplug your coffee grinder to give yourself a little bit more room to work. And away we go. If you end up with a bunch of extra powder in here, you can use a makeup brush to dust it out, but I'm not too concerned about what I've got there. I did a pretty good job with the spoon. So you'll press your sifter in. This is another nice part about using the closable sifter. You press it in with it closed, because if you don't and you use one of the ones that can't close, or if you do it where this is open, you'll have a big spurt of powder come out of the sifter. And there you go. It really is that easy to make powdered cosmetics. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe. Check the description box below for links to places to purchase my book all over the world. See you next time.